Hello, I'm Kevin Hong. I'm a partner at 𝗵𝗿𝗀𝗃, an executive search and leadership advisory firm. I'm also the co-founder of The Council, a private network for senior executives. And this is Leaders in Motion. Today I'm joined by Dr. Guido Maune. Guido is Managing Director of Maersk Container Industry Qingdao, leading a workforce of over 1,900 people in one of the world's key container manufacturing facilities. He has been living and leading in China since 2006 across automotive, consumer goods, and industrial manufacturing, with prior roles at Volkswagen, Melita, and Hella. In this conversation, we'll talk about cross-cultural leadership, the real cause of HQ local misalignment, and what has changed in China over 2 decades, and what leaders on both sides of the bridge still get wrong. Guido, welcome to Leaders in Motion.
Thank you. My pleasure to be here today.
You could introduce yourself shortly.
Well, I started my career after school as a locksmith. This means manual work, repairing, analyzing and repairing machines. And after this, I studied a mixture of mechanical engineering and business. I started in Volkswagen first in purchasing. And due to the fact that I did some projects in Spain and also in China, I was really curious to go and work in different countries. So from 2006, I changed to ZF to take over a very little plant with 15 people, developed it to around 85 people, improved quality and increased localization. The next step was I was going back to Volkswagen, first working in a plant for automatic transmissions, later in a department which was more responsible to fostering lean and operational excellence activities in China. And after this, I went back to operations to lead a small production plant of around 400 people in Foshan. As net a short intermezzo at Hella. After this, I changed to Melita, around 400 people, who produced filter coffee machines, and they also appreciated the value of a good coffee. Recently, I'm working for Maersk Container Industry Qingdao, and you're right, it's one of the world-leading plants for so-called reefer containers. And these reefer containers, you can transport vegetables, bananas, for example, fruits, vaccines, and meat. And the containers are very intelligent. This means they help you to get the bananas from Africa to China within 6 weeks without getting brown. And this we achieve by temperature control and also by atmosphere control. And China, basically, I'm since 2006 consecutively. I like China. I like the people. And today I'm happy to be here.
Where do you consider your home country now?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that's more China. I think I was able to learn a lot about the culture. I assimilated the culture. I worked with fantastic people. I have a lot of friends here. And now home is where also your friends are. So I would consider my home today more China than Germany.
Why you chose China at the time?
When I was young, I read a lot of books of people traveling and working abroad. And this made me curious. Curious not only to work in China, but in different countries. I was working in England, Spain, and China until now. And then there was in my previous company, Volkswagen, the opportunity to work in China. My previous boss was the general manager of 𝗲𝗏 𝗵𝗿 Volkswagen Changchun. And he had a half-year project where I could optimize the localization project. And I thought, well, that's a very good chance. I know my boss, so there's not a big risk to work with a person. Volkswagen is a company which is very well set up, and the time is limited only for half a year. So that was a fantastic chance to start working there. And during this, I found out I have more responsibility in China. If I have a good team, if I want something, it's executed very quickly. Chinese people are hardworking. And on the other hand, China was not as developed as Europe. I was able to develop something. And this created my willingness to continue to work in China.
Have you considered go back?
Well, of course. I still have some friends, and also my parents are living in Germany, and they, of course, becoming older as well. So after I left Hella, I was also checking whether I could get a job in Germany. But finally, I found a very good job here in China, so I continued here. Basically, I'm happy where I am.
When it comes to China and Germany, there has been over the last 2 decades quite of an evolution. As someone who witnessed these changes, how do you experience?
When I started in China, first time 2002. Chinese people were hardworking, but in terms of creativity or business understanding, they were lagging behind European people. Chinese people are very good in copying good ideas. And this means they copy ideas and they later were able to even improve, save costs with the same quality, have different ideas, think about standards. And then China became more and more successful. So China has been able sometime to have the two fastest computers in the world. China is now leading in battery technology. China's bringing in a lot of automation. China's very good in AI. So Chinese people have learned very, very quickly. And if I compare it with Germany, China is now even better in some car manufacturing and also the machine industry, where Germany was leading over a long time. And if we come back a little bit, because you say there's competition and there might be some tension between the countries. Well, if we really go back around beginning of the or end of the 1870, 1880, England was a very strong nation in production. Germany started copying the textile machines, and the British people thought the quality of the German people is not good, so they have to put a label on "Made in Germany." And German people were working very hard, so they became better in these production and in the machines than the English people. And there I see a little bit of the same proceeding in China. China starts copying. China improves quality. China brings in new ideas. And China is just copying the way that made Germany successful. What I think is now Germany and other countries should think, instead of how to reduce China's capabilities, how to protect themselves from China, how can the Western countries regain strength, work hard, might be reduce a little bit work-life balance, be creative, bring in new ideas, that there's a real competition. And I think then both countries, or even more countries, can compete with each other and become better mutually. So I've experienced a good development of China, and what I'm missing now a little bit is the further good development in Western countries.
How do you explain why quite suddenly Europe wake up and outstandish with the rise of China trade surplus, competitiveness, technology? I'm surprised that people have been surprised. How would you explain that?
That's a good question, and I agree with your last sentence. I think the problem is when people think they are intelligent, they are proud what they've achieved, and they have the opinion that other people cannot achieve the same, or they need a very, very long time. So this means you don't focus what you can learn from others. And then later, when you see the difference, you're surprised. So in my opinion, what was missing is a constant thinking of European people about other countries. What are other countries better than we are? What can we learn from them? How can we compete? And this one does not have to start when it's too late. This one has to be done constantly. I mean, when I go to a company, when I changed from Volkswagen to household goods, automotive basically is very good in process description, is very good in productivity improvement, etc. And I cannot go to another company and say, I'm better than all the other people because I come from automotive. For me, it's important then to ask the question, number one, what can I learn from the existing team? There are a lot of things they're doing better than I did in the past. And the next question is, which knowledge can I share with them to develop them, to make them better? So I've never seen whatever company is being not good. I focused on the strength and focused on how to support their weaknesses. And this one, I think a leader should always learn. And this is, I think, also politicians should learn. And probably in Europe, that's not really the case.
What do you think was the approach of business leaders when they enter China? What was the mindset and why that might?
Two things, in my opinion. So number one is China was seen as a very reliable workforce who can do something what I tell them to do. I mean, German companies have come here because China has supported them to come here, established companies. China's built up the supplier network. If you have a company, when you build a company like Volkswagen, the Chinese government supports to have schools, universities, flats there. So China did everything to support the companies. So I think the life of the German building a German company was sometimes easy, but at least not very difficult. What we as German did not understand is that, number one, Chinese people are learning very quickly. Number two is, I think, also the complete understanding of Chinese. Chinese people build relationship with, or Chinese build trust by building relationships. Some people, when they stay by themselves in the compound, they don't understand Chinese, they don't learn Chinese. German people build trust by having competence. I have a doctor title, so German people would accept me and trust me because I have a good education. Danish people, for example, trust people when they bring results. And if I don't understand it as a German, I probably cannot make trust with Danish people, and I probably cannot make trust with Chinese people. And only when I build trust, I understand how Chinese people are working and what other requirements are. And only when I understand what the Chinese requirements are, I can build products they want to buy. If a car like a Mercedes is over-engineered and you can drive it for 400,000 kilometers, you have to pay a price for that. But do people really want it? When I see cars, for example, in Germany, the level of digitalization is not very high, where Chinese people might be tell their mobile phone, where's my car parked? And then the mobile phone shows where did you park your car? Where can you fill your car? Where can you fill petrol? You can tell your car to lower the windows, while German people just prefer a button. Because there was not enough trust and understanding, we as German people did not understand the Chinese sufficiently to build the best products. And this is why now the electric cars, partly at least, in China are very successful. And a lot of Chinese people now prefer buying Chinese cars to German cars.
How do you think that the understanding of European leaders, German leaders, is when it comes to the entire infrastructure ecosystem, industrial ecosystem in China?
The Chinese government has put a lot of effort into build a fantastic infrastructure. So many products, partly it's cars, at least of good quality, it's coffee machines, also reefer containers where I'm working in. You can produce them in the best quality and at the cheapest price in China. A lot of German companies say, oh, we want to go to different countries, de-risk. But when they make a make or buy decision, they find out there is nothing better than China. Or they relocate and they later find out, oh, Vietnam, some suppliers are missing. I need to import from China, which increases my price and my time. Or my previous company went to Chile and the supplier structure in Chile was not there. We built up a fantastic company, really very, very good quality, etc. But if you don't have some suppliers there, you need to import from China and this increases the cost. I think that most of the companies are aware that China provides a fantastic infrastructure for suppliers, and this also makes China very successful in production and also quite cheap.
And what about the political intention to support strategically this ecosystem from the Chinese government?
China subsidizes, for example, or subsidized car companies, that many car companies come to the market, that there's competition between car companies, and the competition also increases, that the companies have to become better, that the companies have patents, that they have new technology. So I think that was one part, how the Chinese government develops an industry. That's correct. That German companies are not too happy about it, I can understand. But the question is, what did the German companies do to counter that? Did they come with better technology? Did they come with new ideas? Did they use might be subsidies by themselves? I think that has not really happened. And for the car industry, Chinese car technology is quite well developed. They're developing new electric engines which save more energy. They have the best batteries. Only subsidies are not the answer. When you only subsidize a country which is not developed, it doesn't help. So I think instead of complaining, German companies should find better ways to find an answer to subsidies, find better ways to develop good cars by themselves, reduce bureaucracy, motivate people to come up with new ideas. And I think that's missing.
I'm not sure about whether or not German companies are eligible to these subsidies when they are investing in China.
I think some companies get subsidies, that's correct, but it depends on the city. But the other possibility is also that you have joint ventures with Chinese companies who are getting subsidies, or you buy a company which was subsidized in the past and make a deal with the government. But this requires, of course, long-term relationship with companies. This requires understanding. This requires a good relationship with the government as well, mutual targets. And the German companies need to take time to build up the relationships. So good relationships take time, but then I assume you can also profit from that.
When it comes to the leadership, When it comes to the leadership here in China, what are the adjustments that are needed to be successful and to have strong leadership that can reach and build trust in
Okay, it's a complicated question, and I assume there's no easy answer. There are, of course, fantastic Chinese general managers, engineers, etc., can make a better job than German people. Might be because they're motivated, they're very flexible, they work until 12 o'clock. Until they finish the task and don't go home. Might be like some German people might go home at 5 or 6 o'clock. So they are very good people. Nevertheless, what I'm missing with a lot of Chinese leaders is the real leadership. Not everyone, of course. If you look at Hisense, it's very well. If you look at Xiaopeng, it's very well. But if I go into a company, I am checking how good is my team? How can I improve my team? How can I make every of my managers better than me? How can I make myself replaceable? And this is normally not the case. There's normally a quite big hierarchical level between the general manager and the team. The team doesn't dare to speak up. The team would never say to the GM, this doesn't work, or I contradict you. My thinking is different. I support people to tell me the truth. I support people to tell me when they don't agree. And I'm also regularly in the production. I put on these blue clothes myself. I'm repairing things. I'm getting my hands dirty. I'm talking with the grand foreman. I speak some Chinese, so that's good. And then I get opinions. It takes some time to build trust, but with this, I can become a better leader. And when I'm very good, my boss will not replace me because he says, oh, we have a good leader and his team is becoming better and better. And this, I think, is not very common with Chinese leaders. And if you really want to go the next step, if you really want to develop a company, then a good German leader still has some advantages.
You mentioned that from a German mindset or culture, you appreciate directness and transparency and bluntness, right? But at the same time, it is difficult to communicate with the struggles of China to the headquarters. So how do you explain that?
Yes, Kevin, you're 100% right. But this is not only with Chinese. I also know some companies, for example, where friends were working in, that the top management does not want negative news, and people get used to that. If there's a big distance like to China, of course, people get frustrated. And it's happening with a lot of companies. It's, for example, 𝗵𝗿𝗍𝗃, it's mining companies who have the same situation and they later fail when they go to Europe, Africa, wherever. That's in every company the same. I think when I don't accept the truth, that as a leader, I don't have enough self-confidence. And probably a lot of headquarters see that China is becoming better and they don't want to listen negative news. They cannot steer that. And that's really a contradiction. I agree. The question is psychological safety. I mean, if you tell me the truth, how do I handle that? And I was able to establish a good psychological safety in my plant. So even sometimes workers come to my office when they complain about their boss. For me, the situation then is difficult because I do not know whether the employee tells the truth or not. I do not know how the boss will react. But I'm listening to the employee. I'm later talking to the boss. I'm also involving HR. And then I'm trying to find a good solution for all people involved. And this works quite well, but it takes a lot of time. You need time to listen to people. You need time to understand people. You need time to understand why something is not working well. Might be it's my mistakes that I gave the wrong directions. It takes time, but I agree. It's still the case. A lot of strategies, according to McKinsey, fail. 80% of strategies fail because people don't speak up, people don't communicate the right thing, Chinese people are not involved early enough in the strategy, responsibility is not given to the people, because in a lot of companies, the management in Germany or wherever wants to have centralized decisions, but they don't understand what's really going on in the foreign country, and might be they don't trust the general manager. That's the case. So then the headquarter needs to take more time, come to China, understand the situation, talk with the people, helps them to develop and build up trust. But yeah, that's only the case in few companies.
How do you build this psychology safety?
I think I need to build safety for both sides, not only for the headquarter, because first I need to understand what my team is telling me is right. For example, in North China, people tell me more what I want to hear. Well, in South China, people are a bit more open. But that's culture. There's no good, there's no bad. There's a reason why people are doing that. And I can build trust when I have one-on-ones with people. I build trust when I tell them the targets and why they need to achieve the targets. I build trust when I talk with people in Chinese, when I deliver things in Chinese, when I join people for dinners, when I join people for playing, for example, basketball or badminton or whatever. So I need to be with the people and build up trust. And then people start to test me, how's the boss reacting? And this will take time. So I try to reduce when I'm general manager, doctor, whatever, it increases the distance between people. And then I'm really trying to leave titles away and talk with the people, let them explain what they are doing, give them some advice, how they can do their work, let them give me idea, reward them for the ideas so that I'm predictable. Of course, when I'm not happy about the result, I can also say, Kevin, we talked about the result twice. If this doesn't change, I don't see a chance how we can cooperate. So please think about it, and I would like to discuss with you how we can be successful together and how I can help you. So if there's a negative news, I always support people. And of course, I put pressure on people, but they see I support them. And this is also a way how to build trust. People should trust me that I support them. People should trust me if something is going wrong, if they fail, that I still support them. If they're completely not capable, of course, I also need to discuss it. The next thing is what I'm often using is ask for permission in the headquarters. For example, if I'm talking with my boss, I would say to him, sorry, boss, but I need to talk something negative to you and you will be angry. So normally I don't want to talk with you. And then he would say, oh, do you have to tell me? Yeah, but then you're angry, but then I'm not happy. No, I'm not angry. Really? Yes. Okay. And then I can tell a situation to my boss. I prepare him psychologically that I communicate something he's not happy about, but I also tell them why it comes and how we'll solve it. And that's a good way. Prepare your boss for negative news, anticipate how he might react, have an answer for that, and then you can also build up more trust with the headquarter that you tell them the bad news. One time I said to my previous boss, I would like to tell you something negative, but then you're 5 minutes angry. If I don't tell you, you're happy today, but you're angry in 2 years. So how should I react? And then he tells me, tell me. And then I told him he was really angry. But after 5 minutes, he said, you know what? I thought about it. Thank you that you told me. So the way is how you communicate with the headquarter with a little bit of humor, with some way to communicate. And then you can also build up trust.
How do you communicate general news that your company is being outcompeted by Chinese companies? And how do you communicate that
German people or Danish people like facts? When I, for example, say in this and this area, we are not very good, we are too expensive. For example, our competitor is using more automation. I would try to find out where he's using automation. I would say we are competitive because we're only using 10 robots and 200 people. Our competitors using 40 and 40 people. And then I would give a suggestion what we could do to become better, what we can learn from the Chinese company, what we can learn to reduce the gap to be competitive. And then German people start to listen. I cannot just go there and say, sorry, but we are too expensive, we have to do something. The same thing is, for example, if I talk with a friend, he's selling special solutions for glue for automotive. Their glue is more expensive, but then the companies don't need to, because if you need to glue, you need to heat it up. Then they can save one heating process, but they are more expensive. And he tells to the headquarters, sorry, I know that the OEMs can save money, but our price is too high. So we need to come in with a very little profit or with reduced profit, but we make a long-term business. The headquarter of the beginning will never like it, but you have to talk with them. Might be you invite the headquarter to talk with some customers by yourselves that they learn the reality. Let them talk with some Chinese people who do sales. And then you have step by step the possibility to change headquarter thinking and think more long term. Yeah, because the thing is basically Chinese people, a lot of companies say, okay, we're losing money the first 2 or 3 or 4 years, and then we make business because we've conquered the market and people depend on us, or we have enough volume. The European people try to avoid risks. They don't want to lose 4 years' money. They cannot sleep. They don't feel very happy. And Chinese people say, good, we do a risk. We know we are successful. And sometimes European people need to learn that taking a risk at the beginning is necessary if you want to be successful, but it takes time. If you want to be successful, you need to copy what is successful. I mean, if we talk about cultures in general, if you want to persuade the German people, you give them a good plan, structured approach, just calculation, and German people believe you. If I want to convince the Chinese, I would say, Haier is doing this in the same way, Haier is successful. And then the Chinese people would say, well, let's visit Haier, let's talk with them, and then we can copy them. And this is exactly what I did. I organized some company visits with my team to other companies who are better than we, and then we learn from them instead of telling them how German people are doing that. There are different things. I already talked about building trust, how to build trust with other companies, how to work timely, how to look in the future, how to approach risks, technologies. Chinese people are sometimes making one or two times a mistake, which costs money. The third time they're successful because they learn from the mistakes. German people plan everything very, very thoroughly and want to start with a good product from the beginning. But Chinese people finally are successful. NIO is now making a profit. First quarter, Xiaopeng is now making a profit after some time. Good BYD is already successful after some time, but in the past they're not so successful. They copied. Cherry in the past was not too successful, but they also improved the quality. So there are a lot of samples that with a long-term thinking, with a long-term strategy, the Chinese companies are successful, and this one we German people have to copy. That's a different way, yes, but if we want to be successful in China, we have to learn from the Chinese, and then we have to think what we can do better.
Do you feel there's still room for European companies, German companies to be successful in China?
Well, the thing is, if I see my current company for the reefer containers, our headquarter developed a very good technology which lets us be more energy efficient. And on a vessel, you need to produce energy. You cannot just take a power plant or something. You need to produce energy with an engine, and this takes fuel. This makes everything more expensive. So there we can gain some competitive edge because our technology for the time being is better than our competitors. And we have to make sure with the engineering team that we stay better than our competitors and have good ideas. So in some areas, we can be better. If it's only cheaper production, like the dry containers, so the normal containers, we are too expensive because might be we focus too much on quality. I think there's a chance for European companies still to be successful, but we cannot do it in commodities. We have to find a niche. If you have normal milling machines, I think Chinese people can do the same product cheaper. If you have very, very, very high precision milling machines, I think Germany is still leading worldwide because this requires a lot of technology, this requires a lot of experience, and this requires a lot of thinking ahead. In terms of leadership, I think it's important to, number one, motivate your team become better. But the second thing is if people are very good, they might leave the company. So in my opinion, it's also important that you create a leadership culture where people want to stay. That you create a leadership culture where people feel being part of a family. People feel home. People feel they can develop. Not only financially. Many people leave because they cannot cope with the company culture, or they cannot cope with the boss, or the work is tiring. And for young people, it means if you have young people in, talk with them as a boss regularly. Their thinking is different than other people in the company. How can you support them to bring in their ideas? How can you support them to work hard? How can you support them to make a difference? And this is also part of the leadership, that you win the new generation who are very intelligent to cooperate with the company and support it.
I see a lot of very strong Chinese leaders leaving Western companies over the last 5 years because of frustration, because things are not completed, feeling that they cannot really push any changes. Who remains are leaders that are less ambitious, accepting a little bit cool. So how do you deal with that, and how do you solve this intricate situation?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm not in the board of a German company who is in hiring a general manager in China who is Chinese. If I was, I would also have a bi-weekly communication with the manager. I would be 3-4 times a year in China, listen to him and see what we can as headquarter improve. As long as the headquarters don't listen to the Chinese GMs, you're right, the situation will stay the same. The best Chinese leaders will leave a company because things are going too long. It takes too long. People are not listening to the Chinese. Mails have to be answered within 24 hours. You as a boss, even in Germany, have to be available also over the weekend. I mean, these are things where we as Germans have to adapt to the Chinese managers to understand them, because when we want their strength, we also need to accept how they are working. And as long as this is not the case, I mean, same thing with a friend. I have a friend who yesterday had twice a video conference with to help him with a project, and now he asked me whether I can help him again. 5:30, and he just sent me a mail now at 6:30. Yeah, of course, I'm very happy to help a friend because later something will come back. But I need to be flexible. I need to listen to the person and support him when he needs it, and not from 9 to 5. And I think when we German people do not become more flexible and willing to sacrifice something, we will lose a lot of good talent. This is what we leaders have to accept.
Would be maybe my two last questions. What would be the advice that you would give to a new German leader leading in China, and or for potential future GM?
Number one, what I would advise leaders who come first to China, I think the first thing is be open and be curious. So you have to be able to understand that China is different, that Chinese people have certain rules, that Chinese people need relationships, etc. So first thing is be open. The second thing is love what you do. You do not have a work-life balance here. In my current job, there can be some problem. So recently we had a fire in the company, a very small one. But then, of course, I take a taxi, I go to the company and check with my team together what has happened and what do we need to do next. Might be the government is coming as well and checking, but you cannot do it when you hate it. You can only do it when you say, well, I'm leading a company with 1,900 people. I'm very happy because I give 1,900 people work. I help families to raise children. I help families to earn money, to have a good life. And when you have this attitude, you always support the company and you love it. So you have to love what you do. You have to build trust with the Chinese. You have to understand how to build trust. Having dinner with the people, talk with them, etc. And when at the beginning people say what they think you want to hear, it's they do it because they're unsafe. They don't know how you react. They want to please the boss. Invest time. You can do that. Create clear targets and discuss the targets with the people. Learn, every day learn what Chinese people make better than you do. As I just said, provide psychological safety and develop people. If you develop people, they say thank you. If people are better than you, if you have a good friendship, they will support you also to become better. Means the roles are different. A finance manager will not take over my job, or a purchasing manager or production manager, because my knowledge is much broader. But if I make the production manager much better in production, he's happy. If I help the finance manager to be good with the KPIs in finance, he is happy as well. So in some words, love what you do, learn a lot, adopt to learning, and work together with the people.
Thank you. It was very insightful, and thank you for coming.
Thank you. My pleasure as well. And I hope
Thank
that
you for
people
listening
take
to Leaders
something
in
out of
Motion.
what I say to learn.
And if you want to go further, join the Leaders in Motion Academy, our executive program. The first step is simple. Subscribe to our newsletter in the show notes, and you'll get access to our exclusive insights and all the details about the academy. This podcast is produced by Melanie Hong, who helps leaders and organizations create strategic podcasts. I'm Kevin Hong, and see you next time.